Coach, looking back on that, trip you guys had to Lexington last month, a game that, Reeves played really well for them. What kind of stands out to you about him and how tough is it to defend a guy like that?
Yeah, it hasn't been that fun looking back on that trip. I think that was our fourth game in the SEC, and we didn't play him there last year, so it was a new experience for our staff, the majority of our staff, and some of our players, and obviously it didn't go very well. Reeves obviously is, one of the best players in the league. He's, played well against a lot of teams. I've got a lot of respect for his game. He's, from what I can read and see and hear, is he's a hard worker and is really, from outside looking in, he's a guy that's gotten better, each and every year, and you can tell he's put the time in. So everybody, respects that. But we just, again, it wasn't a good experience. We didn't play well, and got a lot to learn from it.
I know it's easier said than done, and a lot of people, when they play Kentucky, say you want them to slow down the tempo and you want them to make you play your style. What makes it, probably a dumb question, but what makes it so hard to get Kentucky out of their rhythm and to play more of your style?
Like I've said before, that's something that's talked about a lot, but the other team is trying to, impose their style on you, and they're doing things within the game to ensure that they get, the possessions up, that, you get into some up and down situations with them. And it's hard, two teams are got some different styles, obviously, in this particular game, and we're certainly going to be trying to play our style, and they're going to try to play theirs. And we're hoping that for a majority of the minutes, the game unfolds where we would like it to unfold, and I'm sure they've got a different opinion of like that. But it's easy to talk about and it's easy to game plan for, but it's not practice. You can't stop and explain why we shouldn't have taken that shot, or why we should have done this or that, and it just plays out like it plays out. So it's difficult. It's difficult, and they're really good at what they do. I mean, I don't know if they're the leading scoring team in the nation, but if not, they're right there. I don't know all that for a fact, but I know they're one of the leading scorers teams in the nation, and certainly our job is to try to figure out a way to slow them down some.
We'll stay front row with Justin.
Chris, a bit of a two-part question. Obviously, throughout the year, you've made tough decisions with rotation changes, lineup changes. For you as a coach, I guess, how easy is it to make those calls, knowing you'll have maybe have an upset player on the other side of that table when you make that call? And then on the flip side of that, how important to your guys' season turnaround has it been that the fact that these guys have accepted their changing roles and have, for the most part, left their egos at the door?
Like I said earlier, I understand what starting means for some kids, but for me, it's always been the same. And I preach this, to our team throughout the year, even in the summer and the fall, before we're thinking about something like that. No matter who you play for, remember, are you in there when the game's hard? Are you in there when the game's outcome is still in balance at the end of the game? Because that's when it's most important. That's when you have the ability to really impact the game. Not that you can't prior to that, but there's no more time. And so who's in the game when it's hard? Who's in the game? The closing minutes is where you'll find how your coach believes in you and trusts you. Who starts is a whole nother matter. And like the other thing I always tell them is, after the first few minutes of the game, everybody comes off the bench. And that's what I try to get to understand. You have to have the mentality of understanding how to go from sitting on the bench to getting into the game and playing at full speed, because everybody's going to do it. That's more important than who starts the game. Is how good are you at sitting for a while and then getting into the flow of the game right away, and not having to have 2 or 3 possessions to get going. You've got to be able to do it right away, and it's something that we talk about all the time. And I believe in it, and I'm trying to get my players to believe in it. But this year's group's been great. Some groups aren't so great. For some individuals, it means the world to them. We try to educate them to get them to understand. I understand the pageantry of it, right? And maybe to have a status, within your organization. But There's so much more to it, but like I said, this year's team's been really good about it.
We'll go back to Steph and Paul.
Coach, the game in Lexington, Hubbard was only 1 of 11 in that game. What do you feel like they did, defensively to make it tough on him? And we've seen him play again, against, ranked teams and play well. How much do you think that kind of motivates him to have a bounce back effort against Kentucky?
It's not something that Josh and I have talked about. He's mature beyond his years. He had some looks. He had some looks that they just didn't go down. And, he's obviously had a big impact as a freshman. And sometimes I think we almost take it for granted that, he's going to have a good game each outing. But, he's like every other, college kid. He has bad nights. He can lose confidence if he misses some shots like everybody else can. Certainly against LSU, he missed some early ones, and he kept going. And he got it turned around, obviously, as the game progressed. But I really believe that it was just a bad night for him. Not to say that they didn't have anything to do with it. They certainly did. But only Josh knows, how he felt internally in terms of the atmosphere of the court, et cetera. But in my opinion, I don't think he's afraid of any big moment that he's ever been in.